Welcome to Financial Ginger. I'm your host, Jacob Johnson. About today, are you ready to buy a house? Are you concerned you may not have the right budget to make sure you can afford the house? Are you considering jumping into the market even if you're not sure you're ready? Well, today I have Darcee Oliva on to talk about that and more. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Darcee.
you. Good to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I have been doing real estate for, it's close to seven years almost now. Yeah.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I've been doing insurance for 7.
Okay, there you go. I love it. It's I came from a job I hated to a job I love, and it's been a big change. So yeah, it's been great.
Everyone I know that does real estate likes it.
Yeah.
Like it's fun, exciting. You get to talk to people
and if they don't stay long. So
no. Yeah. Well, it's kind of, sorry to bring up insurance twice in 3 sentences. But like the average failure rate for someone that works in insurance within 2 years is like 90%.
Oh, that's the same with real estate. Yeah. It's like 85 to 90% don't make it to their second year. It's
so
crazy.
If you're working with someone who's been doing it for more than 2 years, you know that they either like it or they're good at it or both.
And they hustle. Yeah. It's good.
So I see on your Instagram that, you say you're the dog-friendly realtor.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I'm so passionate about dogs. I love dogs, and especially rescuing. So before I got into this, I was foster for a rescue group, Rough Patch Rescue. For about 2 years, we had fosters coming in to our home. So we had 13 dogs in total. 14 we got to foster a little bit later. But then one of our dogs, our fosters, we adopted. And so at that point we had 3 permanent dogs, and I was like, I cannot, I can't do more dogs than that. So, but since then I've been still doing work with them, volunteering, and mainly doing fundraisers for them throughout the years. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I am not a huge dog person. I got bit when I was like 3 years old by one of my neighbor's dog. And so it's so dumb. I just have like a visceral like pullback reaction whenever I'm around a dog, which makes me angry because I love dogs.
Yeah.
But my brother recently got a miniature, dachshund, a mini dachshund,
cute.
and it's like 9 pounds, and it's the cutest little dog. So I love dogs. I have a friend that they always are adopting, border collies.
Okay.
Like they've got a farm with like cats and goats and chickens and ducks and cows and all that stuff. And so it's fun because you'll see like border collies like trying to herd the cats, or the small children come and visit and they're like trying to herd the children. Like I've got a herd. That's what I'm going to do. So I love animals being what they are.
Yeah. That's cool. With my brand, so I am a part of every commission goes to either a rescue group or a shelter. I'm involved with a program right now where we go. I'm not in charge of this program. I just volunteer with it, but they go to a different shelter about every quarter, and you get to spend a whole day at the shelter with the dog and get them out and doing fun things. So yeah, that's been fun. So that's kind of where my money's been going lately from commissions, because that's such a fun event. So
that's cool. I like that. I like that I don't know, like you advertise that, like it's even on your email, right? Isn't it like the dog friendly realtor or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's fun.
Okay. A little bit of what we talked about, potentially talking about, was being ready to buy a house. Because I think I've had a lot of my friends come to me and they're like, oh, Jacob, you've got a couple of properties. Like, how do I know I'm ready to buy a property? And I kind of tell them what I think, but I think it'd be interesting to hear from a realtor. It's like, what's like a green flag? Like, you're ready to buy a house. Maybe there's a couple of green flags.
Yeah. So I think I've had both where it's like, you guys are ready and you're just not taking that step. And then I've had some that want to take that step and it's like, you're not quite ready there.
It's not a green flag, it's a red flag.
Yeah. So I think if, I just tell people, if you can financially handle it and you know that you're going to be in a place for at least 2 years, then you're ready. Because why continue to pay rent if you can afford to pay your own? And if you know you're going to be staying here for at least 2 years, why not?
Yeah.
Because you're just going to build, most likely in most circumstances, you're just going to build equity.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I find it funny that people think that buying a house is like a 30-year commitment. It's like, well, it's a 30-year mortgage. And it's like, no, you don't have to. I mean, the average mortgage only lasts like 5 or 6 years. Like most people move, even if they didn't intend to. They're like, this is my forever home. 5 years later, you see them on Facebook. I'm selling my house and moving to Nebraska. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had so many people that bought in 2020 and 2021 who are now selling and buying another house. And they can buy another house because of that house they're in, that they were in. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've talked about this before on the podcast, so apologize to listeners, but I have a brother who's a couple years older than me, and he bought his first place in like 2016, 2017. Yeah. And it's part of the reason he was able to afford moving to, I almost said Alaska, Maine, is it's like, hey, like there's so much equity, you know, in the last 10 years that's built in Utah.
And it can happen so fast. So me and my husband, when we bought our first home, it was 2014. Very, very low price for that home back. It was actually just down the street. Was my first home. And that house, when we sold it 4 years later, gave us so much equity that we were able to move up. And then that second house was great, but it wasn't like a place we were going to stay long term. So then that house got so much equity as well, because that's when the market really took off, that now we're in probably our forever home, or at least until we retire,
at least
home.
7 years. No,
yeah, at least no.
At least until
you sound like my husband.
3% again.
No. I want to stay there at least until my kids are out of school. So we would not have been able to be where we're at now if we hadn't bought our first home when we did.
That's actually a really great thing to be aware of, because a lot of people are like, oh, right, like you're not committing to for 30 years. No. You think you are. Most of the time, obviously, yes, the market goes down sometimes. You're going to build equity. And even if not, right, with your down payment, you do have some equity, at least when you first move in. But for a lot of people, it becomes a stepping stone to the next property. Like the first property I bought was out in, almost Eagle Mountain, technically Saratoga Springs. My yard was like 50 feet from the border. So I tell people Eagle Mountain, and my wife's like, it wasn't in Eagle Mountain. Sorry. But yeah, out in Saratoga Springs. And I actually only lived there for a year, 11 months actually.
Okay.
Before moving to Lehigh. Right. And it was like, oh, it's a stepping stone. It's like, it's not permanent. Getting into a house gives you flexibility later, especially because the markets have generally just gone up.
Yeah. And for so long, people have been saying, well, I'm going to wait for the rates to drop. And they have not been dropping, but prices have kept going up. Yeah. So people are really just missing out on the market. But again, like I said, if you can afford it, I don't want anyone buying a house where they're going to be house poor and they're stuck in a terrible situation. But also, I think there's a lot of people in Utah who have this mindset that they need to get into something that's going to be really, really nice. And your first home should not be something amazing. It shouldn't. Yeah. You should be thinking more, especially if you can't afford much. You should be thinking condo. You should be thinking townhome, because it's kind of like paying your dues when you buy a first home. You have to maybe not be in the nicest place in the world, but that's the stepping stone to get you to that nice place.
Yeah, I see people that they start with like a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, built in 1978. In Orem, it's like a condo, third level condo. It's like, yeah, but that place was $150,000 cheaper than any new build you could have bought. It's like, hey, if you're able to get into a property for under $300,000 and the mortgage is going to be pretty good, like, why not take, as long as you can financially handle it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. In terms of we've kind of talked a little about green flags, red flags, but I don't know what we talked a little about the house poor thing, which I think is fascinating. What are some of the ways that people can avoid being or jumping in a situation where they're going to be house poor? Like, what are some of the thoughts that might be worth considering or talking about?
I think you need to get yourself a good budget first. So what I always recommend first is talking to a lender. Even if you think you're not going to buy for a year or two, I have my people talk to a lender, because then he can give them what the budget would be, like what the house price would be. And then if you can pay, like if you can consistently have the money to pay that every month, then that'll help you know that you're ready. So, and that might mean you have to cut back on other bills. So you can't stream every single streaming platform that's out there. You need to drop some things, or you
buy
need
HBO Max.
Yeah, you can't have a Starbucks every single day. You need to be realistic about what you're going to cut back. And if you're not willing to change your lifestyle, then you're not ready to buy a house.
Yeah. Well, another thing to be aware of too that people sometimes forget is when they first buy a house, some things that like maintenance related that they have to that they might be think about. Yeah. Right. Like if you've been living somewhere where they change out your air filter every month, I mean, obviously that's not expensive, but it's something you need to be aware of. Or right, the conventional wisdom, I actually love insight on this. The conventional wisdom is theoretically about 1% of your house's value you should save each year for repairs and rebuilds. That might not be as important on a condo or a townhome because the HOA takes care of the exterior.
You would think. They don't always take care of the exterior. So it is important to know that kind of information for sure.
Yeah. Or if they don't, special assessments that can happen. I've seen that happen where someone's like, hey, because especially as an insurance agent, I deal with people will call me like, hey, they're replacing the roof on my condo. And they say they're going to charge every single one of us $3,000 for that because that's how much it's going to cost.
Yep.
Like, can my insurance cover that? It's like, no. It's not that. Yeah. It's not like the building didn't catch on fire. A hailstorm didn't blow part of the roof off. Like, this isn't a covered insurance claim. They're just replacing it because it's old. And so you're right. I mean, even if you're a condo, you probably need to save. But it might be a little different than
it is a little different. But you know, if you're going to get into a townhome or a condo, that is something to be aware of. And you need to read the HOA. They're called the CCNRs, Code Covenants and Restrictions. You need to read those carefully.
The fine print.
Yes. And you need to see how often they're doing assessments, how old roofs are, because if the roofs are really old, then it's most likely an assessment's going to be coming your way, which means either they usually give them an option of your monthly HOA will increase, or you can pay off what you owe right up front. And it is a collective. If one building has to be replaced for the roof, it's gonna be collective of everybody.
Of everyone in the association.
Yeah. So, but again, I don't want that to scare people off because it's not super common that they happen. They don't happen all the time. I would just be more aware when you're going in. Like, if you have a HOA that's already $400 a month, you need to be budgeting that could be going up. And just being aware how much are you actually willing to pay monthly for an HOA? Yeah,
I'm kind of scared of HOAs, even though I have 3 properties in 3 different HOAs.
Yeah.
But like HOA, because like, right, they just go up. Like I had one that was like $150 when I first got into it. Now it's almost $300. It's like,
it's hard. And there's definitely HOAs that are worth it. Like, HOAs can be great. They really can. I think people have given HOAs such a bad rap, but HOAs take care of the snow. They take care of repairs. They take care of the yard that you don't have to do. Like, there are benefits to HOAs for sure. Yeah. And it also makes it so you're not living next to a junkyard. So
there's utility
there's benefits to it for sure.
And it's hard to find a property that's newer that isn't in an HOA nowadays.
Yeah, and it's hard for first-time home buyers. If you're going to buy a townhome or a condo, you're having an HOA.
And it'd be scary to not be, because it's actually going to be hard to get insurance if it doesn't have an HOA. There was one person that reached out recently. They disbanded the HOA where they were. I can't remember where it was. It was somewhere in Salt Lake City. And I couldn't find an insurance carrier that wanted to insure a mid-level condo unit for the exterior, because it's like, well, which part of it? Like, too much gray area on ownership. Yeah. It's like, so no one would insure them, which was kind of a weird thing. I'm sure they found something. I couldn't do it. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they've got their uses and their tools. And like, because they do handle some of the maintenance stuff, theoretically, like they can reduce some of the month-to-month costs or make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and that's why you just don't go into it blind. You have to have a professional helping you through all of these things.
Yeah, sure. And make sure it fits in your budget, because that's the other thing is people will say, oh, well, you can lend up to this percentage of your income as your monthly payment. So as long as you got that, it's fine. Well, what about the fact that your utilities might be a little bit higher compared to, like, if you're buying a single family home compared to renting an apartment that you were before? It's like, oh, your utilities are probably going to jump a little bit. Like, did you account for that? Did you account for, the insurance you're going to be paying? That's home insurance is generally more expensive than renter's insurance, if that's the change. So there's a lot of things that are worth talking about and making sure you're not gonna, because if you're making the numbers barely squeeze in, and then there's an extra, or the HOA goes up $100 the next year or whatever, it's like, okay, what are you going to do to cover that shortfall? And then you're forced to cut something back.
Yeah. And I do like it best when clients have an emergency fund and they're not having to put every single penny they have into a house, because those things are going to come up. Like, the repairs are going to happen that you're now in charge of. Yeah. Or your car is going to break down or something. Like, that's why I'm saying I don't like clients that are house poor. I want you to have something set aside for these inevitable things that'll happen.
Totally. That makes sense. Quick pause. Financial Ginger is sponsored by me. If your insurance renewal just went up and you're not sure why, that's exactly why I exist. I'm an independent insurance broker here in Utah. I represent nearly 25 insurance companies, so I can compare their rates and coverage side by side and show you your options clearly. When you call my office, you get a real person, no robot, no menu, just a real conversation. email jacobinsuresutah@gmail.com or call and text 801-216-8444, and I'll review your coverage personally. All right, let's get back to the episode. We've talked about a few of the things that homeowners should expect after they buy. Anything you think we've missed? I mean, I think that's pretty comprehensive, right? Thinking about utilities going up, potential for HOA increases if you're in an HOA zone, repairs that you should expect, roofs if you're buying an older home that has an older roof, like, hey, how much is it going to cost to replace this roof? Oh, $15,000. The roof's 25 years old. Like that probably is going to need to be done in the next couple of years, knowing that, okay, maybe we can negotiate something with the seller or realize we need to budget or plan for this eventual replacement.
Yeah. So again, that's why having that professional with you is the best at the beginning, because if you're buying a house that has a 20-year-old roof, then it's like, we need to negotiate that the seller pay at least half of that or cover all of it. I've gotten many roofs completely covered by the sellers. So my clients, didn't have to worry about a huge expense as soon as they move in. And then there are some where they were just willing to take the house as was because it was 2021 and you didn't have a choice and you had to do it.
The seller's market.
Yes. And so those people, very, very clear expectation of, okay, we're buying this house. We need to start budgeting and saving money for this eventual repair. Because it's not a matter of if, it's when things are going to happen.
That makes sense. So I don't know, go back to the whole red flag thing, right? A red flag might be if you're concerned you won't have the budget for that. It's like, maybe it isn't the best time to buy a house. Like if you're not confident you can handle those things, or if you're not going to be staying there for very long, or right, you're more transient, or you're just about to graduate college and you're like, oh, I might be moving to another state. Okay, well, if you're going to be moving in the next 6 months, why would you be buying a house right now?
That and newlyweds, here in Utah, newlyweds want to get into a house so fast. And it's like, I can't even tell you the number of job changes and moves that we had to do in those first couple of years because we just didn't know where we were going to be. And like I said, and the reason you want to stay in a house for 2 years is because if you move sooner than that, you're going to most likely be paying taxes on any income and any equity.
Isn't it like a 5-year rule? Like
it's
if
a
you
2-year
lived in the
rule.
house in 2 of the last 5 years or something.
Yeah, you have to live there for at least 2 years of the 5. So as long as you have lived there for 2 years, you're good. For the most part.
Yeah,
so
that covers like $250,000 of capital gains, or $500,000 if you're a couple or something like that.
I'm not the numbers person on that. I sell houses. I don't do numbers.
It saves you on taxes on the capital gains.
You could potentially lose out on taxes with your equity if you move sooner. So that's why I say at least 2 years. And again, newlyweds, it's just so you don't know where you're going to be for a bit. So it does make me nervous when newlyweds buy a house the day after they get married. It's
I bought one a month before I got married.
There you go. It happens
and
a lot.
I lived there for a year.
Yes. And I think we moved to Draper, we moved to Orem, we moved to Salt Lake, we moved to Willett County, just all within a few years. So just, you don't know where you may think you know where you're going to be, but most of the time people move really quickly.
Yeah. I had a friend that was a similar thing when they got married, but they ended up keeping their house and renting it out and then moving somewhere else and paying rent. They're like, this sort of balances it out.
Yeah. And that's actually
another, they had the stress of having to deal with things at their house, and going, this is my traveling, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that could be a brilliant plan too. If you want to get into something small, like a condo or a townhome, I would say buy one that you have the possibility of renting out so that you have that option. If you decide you want to keep that and then buy something else.
Yeah. So. But then again, the problem is if you don't live in it for a couple of years, you might not be able to get tax benefits if you have to sell it.
Yeah. If you turn something into a rental, no matter what, though, you're usually going to face those taxes anyway.
Yeah. Unless you're trying to roll it up into something else, do a 1031 or whatever.
Of course, they're going to try to get you in everything. So.
Yeah. Okay. Going back to your Instagram, because I think what really instigated me reaching out to you was I saw that post where you were talking about like the appropriate incomes for different mortgage payments. Like how much mortgage can you really afford? Like what's the ideal amount based on your income level? I really liked it. But there was another post right next to it that was saying there's cool views in Utah that remind me of Alaska. That one was just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Where did you take that video?
That was Alaska.
That wasn't Alaska?
People were so confused.
I was so confused.
But, sometimes you do those things to just get people. And it was so funny. People were so mad. They're like, this is nowhere in Utah. I was like, well, no, duh, that's Alaska. This isn't in Alaska. This isn't in Utah. But Utah has incredible views. But I had gone to Alaska a couple years ago and I had that in my phone. I was like, that'd be funny to put this on there.
Funny
and
to
make
share.
people think it's Utah when it's not Utah. So
It sort of reminded me a little bit of Bear Lake. It sounds like I'm like, I wonder if
bit.
that's close to the border of Idaho. Go up to Bear Lake a little bit.
It's not anywhere close to the border of Idaho.
That's funny. Alaska's a little bit farther than Idaho, just FYI.
Yes.
That's cool. I really liked that video and that picture, and there were some great comments on it, so I wanted to ask about it. Okay. Well, we've talked about dogs. We've talked about we talked about that one a little bit. How can realtors help buyers separate what they can afford versus what they're approved for? I think a lot of that comes down to the lender, though, too. Talking to your lender.
It's the lender is so vital right at the beginning. Sometimes I won't even meet with clients until they've talked to a lender.
That's a great idea.
Because
it's like,
it just doesn't make sense because
if we don't know what your budget is, how can
and
you
if
make
their
a good
budget
decision?
is $250 and they know they're not going to be happy with anything in $250, then it's like, okay, we'll save up for some time
Exactly.
until
the lender can give them some hallmarks. It's like, you need this much more income, or you need this much more savings, or you need this much more for this ideal target.
And my lender's really good about also saying, hey, let's cut this, like this expense that you have, pay that off as soon as possible. And that's really going to change things. Or if they have credit issues, he can resource them out to someone who can help them with their credit. And so there's so many things you could be doing, even if you think you're not buying for a year or two, that you can start doing now to get you ready. Yeah.
Whether that's paying off debt or whatever.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, people feel really guilty about reaching out to a realtor or a lender when they don't know if they're ready. And it's like, no, like I would rather start working with you now for a deal that's going to happen in a few years so that I know it's going to actually happen and that you're going to be in a much better position.
Oh yeah.
And people are just so worried that they're wasting our time. I cannot tell you how many times people have said, I don't want to waste your time. I'm like, this is not a waste of my time. This isn't about me. This is about you and getting you into a home. And so, and however long that takes, I've had clients that it was 3 or 4 years that we started working before they actually bought. And they were in such a better position because of the things they did in that time.
Yeah. I actually really appreciate the realtor friend of mine who kept on calling me and being like, Jacob, you need to buy a house. Jacob, you need to buy a house. Because it was 2 or 3 years of him doing that before I was ready and able.
Yeah.
Right. Because I just graduated college and I didn't have a lot of income with the job I was working, and, things changed but it was just that reminder. It's like, dude, the sooner you can get in, the better. Right. And then thankfully I made that first purchase in 2021, but I signed the contract in 2020. Okay. So I got it. Because it was new build. It was a new
good
build
price,
condo, and I got it at a really good price. Well, especially because the next one I bought, I paid 50% more for. Right, like that was the year that everything went really crazy. I paid like $230 for the first one, and the second one was like $360. And I had friends that ended up paying $400 for some of those condos in 2022. Like it was pretty crazy. I mean, they kind of settled out. I see a lot of them selling for like $315, $350 now. But
yeah, and that's what's hard is the people that bought in 2021 and 2022. They're seeing a dip in their value. Yep. Unfortunately, because people were overpaying. Yeah. And so a lot of them are freaking out, but it's like, you just need to stay in that house for a little bit and it'll come back up. Yeah. But
or a lot of people, they have 3.8, 3.5% interest rates too. So it's like, even though the value may have gone down, your mortgage payment is probably equivalent to what it would have been buying a more expensive house now at the higher interest rate, right? Yeah. Or a cheaper house at a higher, like that 3% interest rate swing is pretty significant.
Yeah. And it's, I think people just think, oh, it could be better, but it's like, you're not in a bad position right now. Like your rent's super low. I mean, your mortgage is low because of the low rate. And so people, and I'm one of them, we just want to rush to the next thing and rush. But sometimes sitting put is just the best thing you can do.
Man, that's been so stressful for me because I've been that one that's just like, move. Because my strategy has been the house hacking thing, which is how I've got the 3 I've got. And it's like, you just have to slow down, right? Like when the money numbers make sense, it makes sense. When they don't, they don't make sense. And it's just as simple as that. If the numbers don't make sense, don't do it. If the timing doesn't make sense, don't do it. It's like, it's a lot more black and white than you want it to be, but it's also a lot more gray than you want it to be.
Last year I had several conversations with sellers and I'm like, guys, it's not the time. You need to not sell right now. So.
Yeah, because if they sell, it's like you're either going to go back to renting, or if you're going to buy, your payment's going to be higher.
Or you're just going to lose money. Yeah. There's some that will lose money if they sell their house. And it's like, nope, we're not selling your house.
Which is why it's good to know. It's like, generally speaking, you'll have equity.
Yeah.
you know, for most people, but sometimes you don't. It's just the way the market works sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't think people need to stress about that too much now. Like if they're purchasing now, I don't think they're going to see that.
Yeah, that was
that dip in their value. It was because we had people paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over appraised value. No, not even asking price, over appraised value. They were paying over that. And it was just mind-boggling. It was a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah. That was, I remember it was nice in the insurance business because everyone was calling and asking.
It was nice in the real estate business. It was great.
That's true. But yeah, it's weird when people are like putting a house on the market and getting 3 offers above asking within 24 hours. It's like, what is happening right now? It's definitely not what's happening right now, but in 2021.
Yeah. You had to tell your clients, you just can't be in your home for the whole first weekend.
Yeah.
And so they would literally go to a hotel for 2 days because it was just continuous showings. And then you had an offer and you were under contract by Monday.
Wow.
So yeah.
And then it ends up being appraised and you're getting $30,000 more than the appraisal.
It was a good time to sell. Yeah.
That's fun. Another thing that I like to talk about in terms of budgeting too is the importance of getting an inspection of your home.
Yes.
Because like I've had people not get home inspections, and even on new builds, every single new build I had, not saying that builders are bad. It's just people make mistakes. Like one of my places I bought, the master bedroom, every single outlet wasn't grounded.
Okay.
None of them were grounded, right? And that's a simple fix.
That is a simple
fix. Super simple fix, but I wouldn't have known that. I'm not an electrician.
And
I don't know how to swing a hammer.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law, when he bought his first place, they bought a little bit of an older place. The radon, I mean, they changed the law since then. Like you have to do radon testing for houses or something like that, I think now. I don't remember exactly what the rule is on it, but it was old enough. They got a radon test and they had to get a radon system installed because there was too much radon levels for how old the house was. But because it was required by the state, there was a negotiation with the seller to get that covered. But it's like the things that are worth being aware of. Like I had a outlet that wasn't done properly. The certain outlets in like the bathroom and kitchen are supposed to be the GFCI outlets.
Yes. And
a couple of them were not. And it's like, these are supposed to be able to trip so that power surges don't damage your appliances or start fires or whatnot. Like that's why the whole GFCI thing. So get a home inspection is all I can say, because I don't know a lot about it, but there always ends up being something.
Yeah. I'd actually advise it for buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
So I tell my sellers to get a pre-inspection done of the home.
Oh.
Because, so this is a new thing I've been doing and it's been paying off really well because I have my sellers get an inspection done. The inspector comes in, tells them everything that's wrong. And now at that point we have to disclose it, which is annoying, but all we do is we just put the inspection on the MLS so people can see it. And we mark on the side, my clients have already fixed this. We've already fixed this. We're willing to fix this. We're going to drop the price for this. We're not willing to fix this. And so it's there in black and white.
That's so forthright.
It is. And buyers have really appreciated it. And most buyers still end up getting their own home inspection, which is totally fine. But what it's doing is it's making it so my sellers are not surprised 2 weeks down the road. And now all of a sudden, oh, this inspection said the AC is bad and we have to pay $10,000 to get this fixed. Or it's avoiding these new negotiations and it's avoiding huge surprises down the road.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice to have pre-inspections done.
I'm sure it also, especially with the market being a little bit different now than 2021, I'm sure it also helps the home sell faster.
It does. Buyers are appreciating seeing that, oh, these sellers
already like it's that much more. It's like open and honest,
and they like actually care about the home. They're taking care of the home. Because I'll tell you, if there was a home that was absolute crap, maybe I wouldn't suggest it in that case, just because it's like
sell it as is, accept it.
Yeah, we're gonna sell it as is kind of thing. But for the most part, it's really been helpful. Buyers have appreciated it, even the ones that do get their own inspection, which I totally understand because you don't know that inspector. Thankfully my inspector is very thorough, so he does get everything, and it's been beneficial for both parties for sure.
Yeah, I had a home inspector on the podcast a while back, and I really liked talking to him about it because he got into home inspecting because after he bought a house that he got an inspection done, the inspector had done a good job. There was polybutylene pipes, the old plastic that falls apart. His basement flooded 3 times in like the first year and a half of owning the place, and he's like, wait, I did everything right. Like, what should I? So anyways, we had a whole conversation about that and how he became an inspector. And because one thing that drives me nuts is Utah doesn't legally require certification for inspectors.
It's so frustrating.
It is because anyone can just say they're a home inspector. I mean, obviously it's a little bit more complicated than that, but Sadly, actually not, but so it's really nice. I always tell people, like, ask the certification that the home inspector had, right? Or how many years of experience at least, like, because if you can at least ask that, because he was trained, he lived in Washington for a while, so he got certified to their standards.
Yeah.
And when he first moved to Utah, he had to readjust because Utah has slightly different standards for certain things than Washington, which I couldn't tell you a single one of them, but right.
Well, we have things here that other states have to worry about that we don't as much. Termites, things like that we don't have to stress as much about as other states. So
or we try to do weird things legally that end up not being a good idea. Like for a while,
Utah does not like their permits. Utah.
Utah did a thing a while back, and I don't know what year this was, where they required you to when you do certain types of siding, you can seal the siding shut so water can't get in.
Okay.
And Utah thought it was a good idea to require that. Well, the way the humidity works when like it builds up, it actually somehow forces a little bit of water in no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's better to not have certain types of siding sealed because then that water can escape. And so for a while they changed the code to where like you legally had to seal it. And then a couple of years later they changed it back because it was causing mold damage and stuff. Like, oh, we thought this was a good idea. And it's like, just because Washington or California or Florida has a law, we have a totally different humidity. So it's fun to see Utah's building code change all the time for ridiculous things. Yeah. Or after a home claim happened, like my parents' house flooded from an underground river that runs near our house. We live on a road called Springwater Drive because there's an underground spring that runs from the mountains to the lake. And it's caused water damage and flooding to like 2/3 of the houses in the neighborhood I grew up in. But anyways, my parents' house, they had to rebuild part of the ceiling in the basement a weird way because the code had changed. So like there's these random like trusses all over the sides because it was the code for like a year and a half. Utah's weird. Whatever. It makes us have some really interesting houses. Yeah. And some really, really interesting ADUs.
Yeah, and when you're buying a home, do not be shocked if there's not a permit for that finished basement. It just doesn't
People
happen.
don't pull their permits.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then the city's weird about them. Yeah. I had a funny situation for one of my friends that built his own house where because of the way they put the ADU on, like over their garage, but like not attached to the, like it was over the garage, but not attached to the house, structure. They had to get a separate build permit for like the original build. It wasn't like a add-on permit. Like it was 2 house permits instead of 1 house permit, just because of the way that their designer designed the house. It's like, that sounds like an expensive mistake.
That does sound expensive. Yeah.
But whatever. It's wild. I don't know. Real estate's really weird to me. Do you have like a certain type of house you prefer to work with when selling or buying? Like I know some people that really like older houses, or they really like duplexes, or they really like new builds. Does that really matter much to you?
It doesn't. For me, it all just comes down to the seller, quite honestly, and those sellers who are willing to listen and do what I tell them to. The best clients are the ones who listen to my advice, and that carpet probably needs to be changed. Okay, they go change the carpet, like that kind of thing. So when it comes to house type, I really do like single family the most. Townhomes can be a little tricky because we do have some areas that are oversaturated with townhomes.
Makes traffic terrible.
It does, and it makes it hard to sell when you have 5 of the exact same unit selling
at the same time.
And then you get that one person who's going to drop it by $50,000 because they have to be out next month, So it's townhomes. I'm happy to do townhomes, but those ones tend to be a little trickier. So I bet
you love townhomes when they have non-permitted finished basements.
Yes, I do. Finished basement and townhomes help sell really fast.
It does help them sell. Yeah, it's amazing how much more they sell for. One of my neighbors, I thought they were crazy because they listed their house for like $30,000-$40,000 more than any house in the neighborhood sold for. And it's all townhomes. I live in a townhome area. But they'd finished the basement, and he'd like done some custom work. Like he built cabinets into the living room, like for a TV stand, like built them into the wall. Like they weren't movable. So like they'd done a bunch of really nice upgrades. They'd painted a couple of the kids' rooms, and the buyer really loved it. And hey, they paid a premium for it. But that was only like a year ago. I was kind of surprised. Like 2025 is when things were slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, some family from California moved in, and Californians think Utah real estate's cheap. Utahns think Utah real estate is not cheap.
Yeah. Those finished basements will appeal to buyers no matter what.
Yeah. I'm from Southern California, and so my family's all moved here over time. And you see people come here and they're like, wait, I can buy a house for $650,000. I'll take 2. Like that's
right.
cheap,
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's insane to see how the price. My first home was $190,000.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a good single family home. So it's just shocking.
Yeah, my dad told me the other day that when I was 4 years old, they bought their place that they're still living in. So way more than 5 years. But so they bought it in 1998, and I think they paid like $130,000 for that property. And it's a 5-bedroom house,
Yep.
and you're just like, wow, the 90s were different, but also wages were lower then. But I don't know how much differently they were, but that's wild.
It's sad. It's sad to see.
It is. Okay. One question. I think this is probably the last question I had on my little docket. Are there any, being a pet person, the dog friendly realtor, are there any special considerations people should take when they're house shopping with a pet? I don't know if there are.
Yes. So obviously I love dogs, but we're not going to bring your dogs into any of the houses unless they are specifically like a seeing eye dog, that type of situation. There's nothing you can do to piss off a seller more than bringing your animal inside their house without permission.
That makes sense.
Because they might have allergies, severe allergies, things like that. So, but when it comes to actually the home you're going to buy, you want to, I'm really good at noticing the things that they're going to want. So if they're looking at a house and the yard is really small and they have a mastiff, be like, is this the best option for you? Like,
or the yard's
not
unfenced.
sure. Or usually the fence isn't a huge deal, because as long as they have the money to pay for that, they're willing. So that one, I don't tell clients to deter from that as much, because the fence isn't too bad to get in for the most part. Unless you have a half an acre, then you have to really, really consider that. But simple things like, do you like taking your dogs for walks? Well, then you need to pay attention to the neighborhood. I can't steer you to which neighborhood, but you need to pay attention, and you need to see, are you going to be comfortable walking around your dog at night in this neighborhood? If you're not, then maybe not.
Are there street lights? Are there dog parks nearby?
Yes, dog parks nearby, pet stores if they have to go get things, different things like that. Like, my favorite area for dog lovers is Daybreak. It is such a friendly area for dogs. They have all the trails. They have everything there. So that's a really fun area if you want to have a dog. Other areas, I mean, we have really good dog parks in Salt Lake County. Tooele County, not so much. Yeah. We don't have much out there, dogs, but you can make pretty much anything work for a dog. It's just a matter of being smart about it. If you need a yard, don't be getting something that's really, really tiny, unless you're willing to go on walks in the neighborhoods or there's a park nearby or something like that.
That's great considerations.
Yeah.
I love it. It's not too hard to put a doggy door in if you have a small dog in the backyard. I remember that it was like so common, and now I don't see them very much anymore. Like the little flaps that dogs can just let themselves in and out.
Yeah, my dogs bark too much, so I can't just let them out willy-nilly.
Yeah. What breeds do you have?
I have a mini Australian Shepherd and Great Pyrenees Border Collie mix.
Oh, cool. Yeah, hey, fun. Border Collie.
Yes. So I understand that herding.
The herding, yeah. Yep. That's great. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate your time and your expertise. If someone's been listening and they're like, I have a lovely dog that I need to get into a house, because we definitely want to get our dogs into houses. Yes. How can they find you?
So you can find me at my handle on Instagram is at realtor Darcee, Utah. And Darcee is spelled different. Thanks to my mom, Darcee. I'm there. Also, thedogfriendlyrealtor.net is my website. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'll leave those in the notes too, so you guys can find it in the show notes if you want to find it. But yeah, thanks for being on. Any last comments or anything like that?
No, I love my job. I love dogs. So why not combine them?
Yeah. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.